that the world can proclaim LGBTQ, right? They proclaim Pride Month in the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month, to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it. They proclaim it on the billboards. They proclaim it in the streets. Unrighteousness. So how is it that one can't speak righteousness? How is it one that how are they to say that you man, this man is crazy?
I'm not the same player as I used to be. That's kind of that's why, you know, I'm not the Jay I used to be. But the old Jay is dead. I'm alive in Christ. You know, no matter what the basketball setting is, you know, I'm born again, the Holy Spirit. And I've been saved by Jesus Christ. No matter what, how many DMPs I don't get to play, or no matter how many points I score, those things are a temporary thing. But Jesus is eternal. You know, he offers forgiveness of sins to those who believe in his name and repent of their sins. And you know, he can free you from all sin. And that's what he's done for me, as I put my faith in him and trusted in him. And so, you know, I continue to encourage those who hear this message to turn. You know, people watch this and they think it's just all about, you know, why is he not playing, or, you know, it's all about, you know, the stats. But, you know, Jesus is not gonna say on Judgment Day, how many points did you score today? What's today?
Thursday.
What date?
February 19th.
February 19th. Jesus is not gonna say, February 19th, why didn't you play, Jaden? He's gonna say, what did you do for my kingdom? Do you believe in my name? Did you love me? Did you keep my commandments?
Let's be real for a second. Something about this whole situation just doesn't sit right. I saw, it plastered all across social media. And the first thing people said was simple: this isn't right. Not political, not complicated, just a gut feeling. And usually when that happens, there's a reason for it, because what you're looking at isn't just one player getting in trouble or one team making a decision. What this actually looks like is a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. See, when these athletes sign contracts, people think it's just about playing basketball. It's not. You're signing up for rules on what you can say, what you can't say, and how far you can go. And most people don't think about that part. They just see the highlights, the money, the fame. But behind the scenes, there's structure, there's pressure, and there are limits. Think about it like a regular job. If you work in a corporate office in a place like Chicago or New York, there are things you can't say out loud, even if you believe them. Not because you're wrong, but because you understand how the system works. Now, take that same idea and put millions of dollars behind it, global brand and media attention and sponsors watching everything you do. Like the NBA organization, for example, being partnered with Amazon. That's the level we're talking about. So when someone steps outside of that line, it's not random when consequences show up. From my perspective, this is where people start feeling like something is off, even if they can't explain it yet, because it stops feeling like fairness and it starts feeling like control. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And I want you guys to rock with me as I break this down in real life terms, because this is where it really starts to make sense now that we've seen both clips. When you hear phrases like conduct detrimental to the team, that sounds official, but think about what that actually means. That's a label. And once that label gets attached to you, everything changes. You might not get cut right away, but you'll feel it. Less playing time, more DMPs, fewer opportunities, and over time, your value drops. Think about a regular person working a job in a city like Chicago, like I mentioned. If management starts seeing you as a problem, even if you're good at what you do, what happens? You stop getting promoted. You get left out of meetings. Eventually, you're gone. Same exact thing here, just on a bigger stage. And we've seen this pattern before. Look at Kyrie Irving. Whether you agree with him or not isn't even the point. The point is, once he stepped outside of certain expectations, everything around him changed. teams, media coverage, public pressure. That's not random. That's what containment looks like. It's not always about silencing you directly. It's about limiting your reach, lowering your value, and moving you to a space where you have less influence. And here is where this actually looks like for everyday people watching this. Parents start making different decisions. You know, there were moments you looked at like it was being pushed in certain leagues or certain situations that may have been pushed on your child influential wise, right? And you're like, I'm not bringing my kid in that environment. That's not hate. That's a parent making decision or choice. And families across the country are doing the same thing, whether it's sports, schools, workplaces. People are quietly stepping back when things don't align with their values. And that's natural. And that's why this matters, because it's not just about athletes, it's about a bigger pattern people notice in certain areas, right? And they continue to think they can say things out loud, especially when someone's cutting you the checks. Now, if you're writing your own checks, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, you are representing an institution bigger than you. So when you dive a little bit deeper, but keep it simple, from my perspective, a lot of individuals would say this is where the Constitution comes into the conversation, especially the First Amendment. Now, people would say these are private organizations, they can do what they want. And that's true. And I have learned that businesses can be hypocritical based on the capitalistic environment, which is the privilege that we have here in the United States of America. Because at the end of the day, these, when it comes to the NBA, specifically speaking to this situation, they have a brand to protect, let alone sponsors that poured money into the NBA organization like Amazon and other sponsors that they don't want the bad rep attached to the NBA if things get out of line. You can say what you want to say, but just know it's with freedom comes responsibility, and with free speech comes responsibility, let alone consequences. You can't sit there on the NBA organization dime and just think you can say what you want to say without just, instead of just doing your job, shutting up and playing ball. Honestly. Now, and if you can't tell, you can't sit there and just speak what you want to speak when someone's cutting you the checks. Now, and if you cutting your own check, say what you want to say. But I'm saying you have to understand, I have learned this in school, that you represent the organization. I'm sure many individuals have been told that when you leave the school, you still represent whatever high school, whatever type of educational institution that you attend. Now, and if you do things out of line or do some, you know, intense or wild that basically cause for backlash and also public perception, those institutions, let alone colleges, will separate the situation for you. Let the thing play out if it's a legal process and say, look, we don't represent, we are separate from what this person is doing. We don't rock with what they did. We understand that they are a part of our organization, and we'll see what goes from there. It happens on a regular basis. So what I'm saying is, I'm all for him, being committed to his faith on his time. But you have to understand through temperance, because he's a Christian, that there's a time and a place for things. And everything that you do don't need to be said. And in this case, you're representing the organization. Now, like I mentioned, you still want to be a part of the organization that you are openly saying the things that you're against of what they're doing, but you're still getting paid from it. So don't get the money and don't take no checks from them entirely if you feel that way. That's why I said in the beginning that individuals, for example, being a parent, if you feel as though the environment or situation or influence doesn't align with what you feel is important to your child, and it becomes that it's not a good influence that you want to basically have your child be receiving or your child be absorbing, then you remove yourself. That be let alone be workplace, school, whatever the case may be. That is the values aligned with the choice you make of fully dissociating yourself and divesting from that situation without sitting there condemning it, just understanding this was they rep and I don't have to rock with it. And the same thing goes with Jaden Ivey. If you feel as though the NBA is however way you want to, then you don't have to rock with them. Don't get paid, but then you're speaking as though you still want to play and be in that organization. So how are you going to bash the organization that cuts you the check? One. Number two, then sit there and think you can say what you want to say when they're paying you. So as a business, they have money to make, and their customers are fans, and they're just worrying about expanding their broader audience. They're not worrying about who you are or who a person is, if they decide to be, LBTQ or not. And at the end of the day, if you're an adult, the choice is yours. You be what you want to be. The same way we can say that whatever you do in your bedroom is what you do in your bedroom. You are your own person. So as a Christian, we also know as a Christian, you give grace. You understand that everything doesn't need to be said and people are on their own journey, but that's not for you to condemn. So you take the speck out of your own eye and understand that there's a time and a place for things. And at the end of the day, people are going to go through their own go through. And that's not for you to condemn them. But now if they ask you for counsel and they ask you for advice or they tapping into what you're saying, then that'd be a conversation set there for there. Like where you and that person kick it and y'all have conversations. But I'm saying in the workplace, for example, this could be hostile. You can create a hostile work environment because not only are you sitting there condemning the league and judging the league that you are getting paid for, that you say you don't rock with how they moving, but you getting paid from it. You should have divested yourself entirely and not get paid from it, let alone your faith. Great. Your choice of your own faith, you committed to that. I'm glad that you committed to something that you feel as though resonates with you, but you don't have to sit there and put that onto the workplace, is my point. So, for example, you may be like for in his case, playing for the Chicago Bulls, and other people may not be rocking with the faith that he's rocking with, or whatever the case may be. So now you're making people uncomfortable because they feel entitled to your faith based on you just sitting there speaking on the whole association and bashing it in a way. It comes off in a way of bashing it and judging it based on your principles and values. But everybody doesn't have to follow what you follow or do what you do because they are their own person, is my point. So if they're there to play basketball, your coworkers, in this case with Jaden and Ivey, they want to just play ball. They don't want to, they be like, man, look, I didn't come here for that. I come here to do my job, play ball, and then I go home and work on my faith on my own time when I'm not trading my time for money and getting paid by the NBA. And that's what Jaden and Ivey should have did. Work on your faith on your own time. But if you're getting paid for the NBA organization, you need to understand that you represent them and you are a reflection of them, and brands are the ones that are paying you associated with the league. Everything doesn't have to be said, bro. And at the end of the day, you are a at-will employee. You have to understand that. So I'm being very objective, taking emotions out of it, being logical. I understand that businesses have they have the privilege to be hypocritical. You can sit there and not like the audience that they are appealing to or trying to reach out to, but having the opportunity of capitalism that turns into dollars, aka translate to your paycheck, Jaden Ivey, that you're taking. So I say all this to say that what if the NBA, because you don't like that they are appealing to a certain audience, when from a capitalistic environment, a business, they just weren't about generating revenue, resonating with the people, giving a service, let alone a solution. In this case, the NBA is entertainment. They don't care. It ain't about if someone is gay or straight or anything like that. It's just the spirit of basketball, bruh. Take it a step further. Sports was always known to bring people together through love and unity and peace throughout countries, throughout the United States of America. So you injecting your own beliefs and your own values, what you do on your own time, that's where the hostility come in, because at the end of the day, just shut up and do your job. Pour into yourself with your own faith on the side, but you don't have to put that on people or make things hostile and sit there also condemning an organization that you get paid from, that if you fully don't rock with, they don't take a paycheck. But it's also, like I said, to take it deeper, it takes away from the spirit of sports, how it just unifies individuals from all walk of life, no matter what journey they're on, no matter what they are, who they are, and what they say they are. So now you got to look at the NBA being a business of capitalism, taking on capitalistic opportunities, saying we want to expand across the world to China, to if you're straight or you're not straight, it doesn't matter. Basketball is basketball, and we just want you guys to love the sport and the entertainment and have a good time. And that's what really is about. That's why I love basketball. It unites people in sports, just American sports and sports in general, everybody. If you are what you are what you are, and I respect that. Right? And that's the peace and the love that I promote. Being kind to others. So what I'm saying is it comes off hypocritical because he's taking a check It creates a hostile work environment. And also, it seems like you're being very judgy instead of being kind to others. Not saying that how you're looking at it aligned to your faith isn't wrong if it's aligned to your faith, but everyone doesn't have to subject themselves to your faith either. Goes back to my hostile environment point. So I say all that to say, family, is that he's young. I know um, he's 24 years old. He's been going through some injuries. He hasn't been as a value to the Chicago Bulls due to his injuries. And I hope he overcomes his injuries and be phenomenal. We all have a learning lesson. None of us is perfect. I hope he takes this as a learning lesson. I wish him many more opportunities. And the NBA give him another chance. I did see that he also represented Steph Curry. But if this is what you stand on, you don't involve another man in how you feel. You speak on it to how you speak on it. That's how you felt. But like I said, that come with consequences. So when you look at that, not only your intention, but you have to look at your impact. So that's where I'm going to stay with that point. Now, I'm going to close out here, family, because businesses, when it comes to evolving and always continue to expand their customer base, they may not rock with what you value, but at the end of the day, it's translating to customers to help that business thrive. And when it comes to a business continue to want to impact for years, they are worrying about taking them. That's why I say no business isn't no place for feelings, right? Business is business. Analytics, the numbers, the results speak for themselves, not emotions. So my thing is, if the NBA wants to continue to expand and survive and continue to be self-sustainable as a league, they want to expand to all people, which I feel as though the goal and always the beauty of sports was always to unify. And also, when he mentioned Steph Curry, even if, let's say, for example, hypothetically, Steph Curry did this and he got away with it, or LeBron James did this and he had to sit down for a little bit, or Michael Jordan, right? When Michael Jordan was getting out of hand with his gambling situation and it was impacting the league based on the perception that Michael Jordan was giving off, like this is allowed in the league. And then Michael Jordan took a year off or so to play baseball, and the league kind of set him down for a bit because they understand that brands associated with them, which is also generating more money, and also you have an influence, the bigger the brand is, that we don't want to give off this message. And you have to understand that, and also understand that we want to reach out as much and impact as much people as possible beautifully with unity through the sport of basketball, and also encouraging more to chase this dream of being basketball, and you can make it too, as a business could keep generating money, top talent, and entertainment. So a business may not be right on how you may feel faith-wise and whatever your faith is. But at the end of the day, it can be a business have every right to be hypocritical, because at the end of the day, it fluctuates based on results, on how the business thrives, on what needs to be done, whether that's, expanding whatever type of audience or whatever customer base it need be, whether it's aligned with your values or not. Right? So that's the luxury. But also dealing with my Michael Jordan stuff example, you could say, oh, well, they got special treatment, but they just condemned Jaden Ivey. And that could be true, right? Two things could be true at once. Maybe they got special treatment because they added so much value in the league. Well, if you thought you could say this, he's not adding as much value in the league right now because he's been injured and sat down for most of his injuries, which I pray he overcomes. But the simple fact is, maybe if he was generating that much value in the league, maybe it would have been a pass. But I hope that he gets another opportunity. I hope he learned from this. I hope he just play ball and do his thing. And I feel like he just got excited off of his faith and wore his emotions on his sleeve, and it could come off subjected to other people where they feel like they have to subject themselves to your faith in your workplace, in this case, the NBA. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Catch you next one. Peace.